the budget book.
Oh, pish posh.
And I'm like, I don't want to mess with it.
All right, it's 10 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock?
It is 1 o'clock.
It might be 10 o'clock.
Somewhere.
I was going to try to be more specific.
What did Chris Otter say? I can't see, but I can drive, or something like that.
Wait a minute. It's 1 o'clock, and welcome to 2024 budget hearings. And first off is Public Works. So, and oh, I thought you.
I usually got a lot to talk about, so we won't dwell on this first slide.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you about a budget proposal, and then I'm going to get into our funding mechanisms. I'm going to talk about CIP items, and then we're going to talk some wastewater treatment plant projects, contract maintenance work that I'd like to do in the upcoming 2 or 3 years, and then ongoing concerns. So let's get into it real quick. Here's the summary. But salaries, 3.27 increase over 2023. As you probably know, the departments don't really have a lot of input into the salary budget. We do have a little wiggle room on maybe intermittence, but for the most part, that's pretty much set. We fill in the blanks, and that's about it. But on non-salaries, commodities, and services, I'm asking for a total of approximately $340,000 over my 2023 budget, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Approximately $260,000 is for material and insurance increases. $80,000 is for the first year of a 2-year radio purchase. The last increase in my non-salary budget was $45,000 in 2020. And the 337 represents an increase of $273,000 over 2017. I hope that shows that I haven't asked for too many increases over the years. Here's a summary. I know you'd like to see where the significant changes are. If you look to the left on the table, there's the 337,854. That's the total increase that I'm requesting. On the right is a list of object codes where in the blue there's been a decrease, in the red there's been an increase, and in the bold red there's been a substantial increase. And if you look at the reds, a lot of that is utilities, road materials, fuel, and when I say fuel, gasoline and diesel, vehicle and maintenance, things like that. So that's where the big changes are, is our road maintenance materials, insurance, and fuel. So, and I know you guys don't trust me 100%, so I'm going to provide a justification for this increase in material costs. On this screen, you see what we've solicited bids for. These are road materials from glass beads down to calcium chloride. And it shows from 2021 through 2023 what the increase is. Now, the middle column, I should say the right center column, it's the year-to-year change based on actual quantities. If you go down through that list, the change from 22 to 23 was $330,000. If you go from 21 to 23, we've had a $575,000 increase in road materials. Now, I like to be fair. I'm cheating a little bit because if you look to the left there on the quantities, we have increased our quantity a little bit between 21 and 23. Not on everything, but on some things. So if you look over to the extreme right of the sheet, you will see what I've done is I've standardized on the minimal quantity between 21 and 23. So everything's apples to apples. And we still have an almost $300,000 increase in road material expenses. That's why I am asking for an increase in my budget to basically accommodate these increases in material costs so that I can continue to do the good things. I shouldn't say but the department continue to do the good things that we've done on county roads. So that is, again, what I'm asking for. 337, 854, about 260 of that is in the materials and insurance. We've seen a huge increase in insurance. I don't need to tell you that. That's passed on down to Public Works. And then we need new radios, and I'll talk in more detail about that. Okay, funding sources, just kind of as a quick review. Basically, I don't have a tremendous number of funding sources. Maybe for some departments that's more than they have, but basically I've got operational funds, and at the beginning of a fiscal year I transfer $650,000 to projects, and that's what we used to call the federal match. So at the beginning of the fiscal year I transfer $650,000. Throughout the fiscal year I work with Audit Finance to transfer various amounts from our operational budget to specific project accounts. For example, Nottingham, I transferred approximately $500,000 from my 2023 operational fund to the Nottingham project account fund to pay for that project. And then at the end of the year, if there's any unobligated funds, we transfer that to special bridge, special machinery, and special highway. So that is why the operational budget for Public Works is so important, because it is a significant part of our funding sources. Federal fund exchange dollars. We get that every year. Over the last few years, it's been around $700,000. That's a diminishing funding source. Over the last 5-6 years, it's significantly gone down in value. So over time, that's going to become less and less of a valued revenue source. Now, when I say valued, I mean we'll take anything we get from KDOT, but it is a diminishing source. And then, of course, we have the 2017 to 2031 countywide sales tax program, and that funds our bridges. It funds Northwest 46th Street, which is in the design phase, and it will fund in the future Northwest Rochester. On Northwest 46th Street, I will say that presently that thing is budgeted at $12 million, and Northwest Rochester Road is budgeted at $26.5 million. Hopefully, the funds will be available to expend those to get that thing built. Okay, this sheet we'll just go over real quick. I just want to show you how much money we have in our various project funds right now. Basically, between special bridge, special machinery, special highway, our bridge projects, our road projects. This total at the very bottom of the sheet, $11.2 million, does not include what's in the sewer district's funds. That is technically, I guess, county money, but I can only use it within that sewer district. So if you look up there, the top four, there's probably maybe $3.1 million or $2.3 million, a little more. That is established. You can only use that in that sewer district. But the numbers down below, especially the numbers in bold, add up to $11.2 million. That's funds that we have available right now to spend on our active projects. I just wanted you to see that. That money is there. It's just not sitting around. It's there for our projects, which are ongoing. Okay, for CIP work, equipment, dump truck, backhoe, or a track backhoe, tractor, mower. The mower technically is not a CIP item. I submitted it as a CIP item, but since it's less than 50, I think it was removed from CIP. Is that right, Jennifer?
That's correct.
The water truck, I think we've got another water truck within the 5-year plan. So that made I think, did that make the CIP?
I'm not certain on that one.
Yeah. Okay, and then a traffic control truck. We want to pay for that $300,000 using capital outlay, which is consistent with what we've requested in the past, and the remainder will be paid through our special machinery fund. Road projects. Obviously, we're working on Auburn Road right now. That's slated for a 2025 construction. And at some point in the future, I would like to come back to Southeast 45th Street between California and West Edge Road and get that built. That has already been designed, and it's just waiting for funds to get that built. Sales tax projects, Northwest 46, we're working on that. That's a design. I've seen a preliminary set of plans. We're moving ahead with a roundabout at Green Hills Road to kind of split the project in half and to help control speeds. Again, we're talking right now a total budget of $12 million. Rochester Road, we haven't started on that yet, but we have done some preliminary cost estimates, and that's where the $26.5 million comes from. So that project ballooned from 13.7 to 26.5. Topeka Boulevard is a signal project. We've been working on this for 3 years. In fact, we just passed the 3rd anniversary of when we started that project. KDOT has finally gotten the permits from the railroad, so we're anticipating a September 2023 KDOT levy. Bridges. Green, Northwest 66 over Indian Creek. It's green because it's under construction. I was up at the bridge site yesterday. Everything is moving along great. They should be completed well ahead of the KDOT's defined completion date. In 2024, we want to build South Topeka Boulevard over the Wakarusa. Even though it's hard for you to see on the big screen, really that bridge is in pretty decent shape. The reason we want to replace it in 2024 is it's posted 11, 20, and 42. Just to give you a perspective, you don't post a bridge if it can carry 27, 43, 43. And don't ask me about those numbers right now. Just think 27, 43, 43, and we've got 11, 20, and 42. That gives you a perspective on the load carrying capacity of that bridge. Also, it has a rail system that's just like Polk Quincy. We all know what happened on Polk Quincy. So we want to get that bridge replaced. Northwest 78th over tributary to Half Day Creek. That's in the design phase. It's being replaced because it's structurally deficient, it's in overall poor shape, and it has a steel superstructure. You're going to see over the course of these next few bridges that steel superstructures are prone to rusting. They're prone to being, they don't load rate very well, so they are the type of bridge that we're focusing on for replacement. Southwest Jordan Road over tributary to the Wakarusa, that's near Burlingame. We're replacing it because it has a very low sufficiency rating of 38. It's structurally deficient. It's in poor shape. It's got a steel superstructure, and it's only posted for 9, 11, and 20 tons. Say that 3 times. And again, we wouldn't have to post that if it was at 27, 43, 43. So that gives you an idea of how bad that bridge is. Northwest, there's 2 bridges now on Northwest Valencia Road we'd like to do in 2026, along with the Jordan Road Bridge in 2026. Again, these are relatively small bridges. They are bridges. They're structurally deficient. They're in poor shape. One of them has a concrete superstructure, but the reason we're doing that one with the one above it that has a steel superstructure is they're within probably 500 feet apart. If we're going to replace one, we might as well replace the twin, as I call it. The contractor's mobilizing. Let's get 2 bridges for one mobilization. Northwest 35th over tributary to Little Soldier Creek. Again, structurally deficient, poor. It's got a steel superstructure. Now that is a bridge that we've added new with this 5-year plan. I want you to know that. That is a new bridge added to this 5-year plan. It's in 2027. And then Northeast Calhoun Bluff Road over tributary to Kansas River. That's going to be a bridge removal. Kevin, that's in your district, but I'm not completely removing that bridge. I'm going to replace it with a small culvert. There's been some changes in drainage up there, and a bridge size structure is no longer needed. So we will replace that bridge size structure with a small culvert. To the right there, in very small letters in parentheses, it's AM, KC, BR. That's the commission district that they're in. And then another new bridge that we've added to this 5-year plan is Northwest Maple Hill over Kansas River. That is a 1,300-foot long bridge. It is one of the few crossings of the Kansas River in Shawnee County. It is actually on, part of it's on the Shawnee Wabunsee County line. but Shawnee County is responsible for it. In 2028, we want to redeck the bridge. We want to completely remove the deck that's on that bridge and replace it. And in 2029, we want to paint it. And again, that's new, and between 28 and 29, we're going to spend north of $4 million on that. Bridges that we removed from last year's 5-year plan. I think it's important that you know that. Southwest Crawford Road over Wakarusa River. The reason we removed it is in overall fair shape. It does have a steel superstructure, but considering everything, we decided to remove it. And Southwest 69th over North Branch of Wakarusa River, we removed it because it's got a concrete superstructure and it's posted 22, 42, 43 tons, which is pretty good compared to 27, 43, 43. So we felt like we didn't need to replace that at this time. Now, I want to note that the Maple Hill Bridge over the Kansas River, which we've got newly budgeted in 28 and 29, it's functionally obsolete. That means it's narrow, but it's not posted and it's not structurally deficient. The reason we added that bridge on here is because we think it's time to replace that deck. If we let that deck go to hell and pardon my language, and the steel girders start to get rusty, a $4 million expense turns into a $20 million expense. So that's why we're being proactive here and replacing this deck so that we can get some additional 15, 20 years out of that bridge before we probably have to replace it. So that is why we added that to our present 5-year plan. Large culverts, I won't go into this in a large detail. Right now we're working on 2 projects, one on Southeast Barrington Road around 69th Street. That involves 3 culvert structures that we're replacing. We plan to let that early next year so that we can do a lot of that work during the summer break. And then Southwest 107th Street near Wachter Drive, that's slated for letting late this year with either a late this year construction or an early construction next year. And then planning ahead, we want to do some work on Valencia Road. Again, the small lettering in parentheses is the Commission District, east of Southeast 61st, east of Shadden Road, Northwest Button Road at Northwest 39th and Northwest 35th. I don't want to dwell on those projects. Those are large culverts. And then Kimball Road at Northeast 35th and Northwest 35th near Minokan Road. Radios. We've had these radios right now. The radios we have now, we've had for probably 15 or 20 years. They've been discontinued. The manufacturer, which is Motorola, they no longer support the system, the parts. You can't get parts for these things. The current radios are not upgradable. They're effectively, this all comes from the Sheriff's Department. We've been working with them. They're the experts in radios. They're effectively 2 generations behind the current technology. I asked if the Sheriff's Department had any hand-me-down radios that they could let us use or have, and they have none. So we're going to replace radios with these we'd like to. I'm asking to replace our radios with this APX 900. It's kind of a base level radio, but the Sheriff's Department says it'll do everything we need. I think you can see the contract price up there. We're going to need approximately 60 radios, or 66 radios is what I've budgeted for, and we want to buy those over 2 years. They will be compatible with those used by the Sheriff's Department, and these radios are something that can be easily maintained by the Sheriff's Department. Let's get off CIP and talk about the wastewater treatment system out at Sherwood. I think it's important that you understand where we're at. We let that project in 2022, and work was scheduled to start in July of 2022, but the contractor was financially unable to do that. The bonding company has agreed in principle to a $200,000 settlement. Now think about that. We let the project, but the project never started. So we never expended any money on it. We spent money on design, but no money on construction. We got an additional $200,000 from the bonding company. So we're going to relet this project on August 9th. And we have, again, we know we can't let this for the price that we let it in April of 2022. But now we have an additional $200,000 to play with. Pump station project. We let that in October of 21. Well, I should say the plans were submitted to KDHE in October 21. It took them a while to review them, but we finally got them back in August of 2022. We let the project in October of 2022. The construction contract was approved last December, and guess what? It's the world we live in. We're waiting on important project commodities. We hope to be able to start work late this fall. So there is absolutely nothing we can do on that project. It's strictly a delivery issue, pumps, control systems, things like that that are taking a tremendous amount of time to get delivered. Once we have these two projects underway and we're comfortable that they will come in within our project budget, then we'll get started on a treatment plan assessment and upgrades. We may come before you, the commission, asking to do that as a design bill. Okay? Contract maintenance work. Contract maintenance never ends. I mean, we've got internal maintenance, what we do with our own forces. Those are typically smaller jobs. The bigger jobs we put out to a contract. Right now, again, in green, because green means go, and we are working on Nottingham Road as we speak. The project is going fine. We anticipate the contractor being done well ahead of 8/11/23. That's when the school district goes back to school. Southbound Croco Road from 200 feet north of Sycamore to the I-70 bridges. If you remember here a year or two ago, we did the northbound lanes. We've still got to address the southbound lanes. Gary Ormsby Drive takes a heck of a lot of truck traffic. We may have to put some money into that in the near future. And then Northwest 46th Street at US 75, if you've been up there, the little roundabout underneath the bridge, it's concrete pavement built by KDOT. The concrete's in serious trouble in spots. Ongoing concerns. I do have 2 of my 6 bridge maintenance folks. Its positions are vacant. 8 of 24 road maintenance positions are vacant. We've had some great hires recently. We hired 3 people from Soldier Township, 2 mechanics and a supervisor, and they have absolutely been wonderful additions to Public Works. Economic concerns. We've got labor costs, labor uncertainty issues, we've got price uncertainties, material availability issues. The asphalt price index, when we built 29th Street, Southeast 29th Street, was stable at $410 a ton. That was at May through December of 2020. In July of 2022, it spiked at $775 per ton, and now back to this year, January through June, I do not have July numbers yet, it's been stable at $620 a ton. But if you look at the difference between 410 and 620 in just since late 2020, I think you can see we've had a 50% increase in asphalt oil prices, or at least the index. Shrinking pool of contractors and suppliers. I don't want to insult your intelligence, but less competition equals higher project costs. We only have one local supplier of a hot mix asphalt in the area. Although the supplier is someone that we work with a lot and we value their business partnerships with us, there is only one supplier of hot mix asphalt. Final concern, shrinking purchasing power, inflation against funding sources. Again, I talked about it earlier in my presentation. Federal fund exchange dollars, that dollars keeps going down. Sales tax for bridges, it's flat, but in 2028 it's going to go up by $850,000 because we will have the Willard Bridge repayments complete in 2027. Non-salary budget, MSA 02 through 05, it's been pretty much flat. It's actually dropped 65,000 since 2027. That, I hope you see, is another reason why I'm asking for the approximately $260,000 for materials and insurance increases. And then the operating budget from a salary standpoint, fortunately that goes up, and those vacancies that we have, that money is available for me at the end of the year to transfer into these machinery, highway, and bridge funds, so that helps me fund our ongoing maintenance projects. But nevertheless, I want to make it clear, that is no longer viable because I think prices are going up faster than that salary budget is. So that's it. Questions? I hope I didn't bore you too much.
That was like 7 countries in 3 days. Rochester Road,
Yes, sir.
this year you're going into, or next year you'll be going into design or?
No, not on Rochester. We won't bring a consultant on board until probably mid to late 2026.
26.
Based on our cash flow plans that I think have been formulated.
But your easements work is next year.
Say that again?
Easements and getting the right-of-ways is
Yeah.
next year.
Okay.
Yeah,
That-
but that's hard to do, Kevin, without a set of plans. So, you know, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. I believe there's going to be money available. We can start design earlier, definitely, but I don't want to get into right-of-way acquisition, because the first question that the landowners ask is, well, let me see your plans. I mean, how much are you going to need? And I can't say that at this point in time.
Right.
I know it's a lot to swallow, but I feel it's important to cover all that.
And just as a reminder, Sherwood is paid by the users of Sherwood.
Absolutely. All the sewer districts are user fee funded. That's why on that one sheet, I did not add that to the $11.2 million total, because it's not money that I can use as I wish. It's only money I can only use within that sewer district.
How many years out are we on Sherwood Sewer District to bring it all up to speed, you know?
The,
We kind of had a plan for so many years.
yeah, Bill, I don't want to disappoint you, but I think the work on that
Never
Sherwood is
ends.
going to be never ending.
Okay.
Never ending.
Well, that's good to know. So price of asphalt going up, has it gone up enough to make us start looking at other options, concrete, or even getting more aggressive with like chips and seals and micro surfacing and things like that?
Chip seals are good in that they seal the surface of the pavement, keeps water from getting into the structure. But it's not structural. At some point, you have to add structure to your pavements, because at the very bottom of your structure, there's bacteria feeding on the asphalt, it's being weathered away from groundwater, et cetera. So there's times where you have to add structure to your road system or that segment. And your first part of your question was, again, help me out.
What was about concrete?
Oh, good. Excellent question. When we did the northbound Croco Road between the bridges in, here I think it was 2021, we did a concrete and an asphalt option. Even with the inflated prices of asphalt, it was still cheaper than concrete.
Okay.
Well, concrete's gone up.
Yeah, and concrete's gone up too, you bet. Steel's gone up.
The Maple Hill Bridge that you mentioned over the river,
Mhm.
is that asphalt, or is the decking on that, is it concrete, or?
It's concrete, yeah.
Okay.
We don't like to put asphalt on our bridge decks, because what happens if you get moisture underneath that asphalt, then you're holding that moisture in that area. It never dries out, and that's a no-no as far as bridge decks go. So it should have a concrete wearing surface. We'll completely remove that and put a new concrete deck on and a new rail, and hopefully we can get 15 and 20 years out of that. And then we'll paint the girders the following year, and ironically, I think that's got some lead in it, so our options are we remove all the lead paint, we have to encapsulate the bridge to keep the lead dust from going in the river. That, as you can imagine, Bill, is a very, very expensive proposition. So what we'll probably do is we'll come up with a paint system that encapsulates what's on the girders right now.
With the last remaining 5 seconds, do you think Public Works should take over the road maintenance for around Lake Shawnee from Parks and Rec?
That's really up to you guys. I hope, though, if that happens, that you consider that in my budget, and maybe even manpower-wise.
I only ask that because I see Tim Laurent in the hallway right behind you, chuckling.
I think it's a great idea.
Could you approach the microphone? No, I'm just.
Betty?
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
The radios, you said was a CIP
Yes.
item. I don't see that on our list here.
It should be.
Can you look at that for us, Jennifer? Also, have you looked into leasing backhoes, skid steers, any of your normal
Yes.
trucks that you
We have.
could?
We
You
have, and there's two reasons that we don't. The first reason is we modify our equipment so much that leasing isn't really viable. The second thing is, in the last couple of years, we've bought some equipment that we looked into leasing. The big equipment manufacturers are getting away from leasing, and they're going to a more guaranteed buyback.
Okay, okay.
I don't see it on there, but I can get it added. I'm not sure where it's missing from.
All I can say is I had talked to Janet, and the intent was to have that as a CIP item.
Cool.
I just want to make sure it's on here for the.
Yeah, it's not currently on there, but I will
Okay.
get it added before we start talking CIP.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
Next.
So many CIP requests.
Hey Kurt, which years were you planning on having that? The project's there, but with no funding years. So it was 24, 25, 80,000 each?
Yep.
Okay.
85,000.
80,000 in 24 and 80 in 25.
All right, next up is Parks and Recreation, so, Tim?
All right.
all yours.
Good afternoon. Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So just a reminder about our mission and vision. These are relatively new. It's only a couple of years old, but we want to inspire active and healthy lifestyles through a diverse system of parks, facilities, programs, and people. And our vision is to provide an innovative parks and recreation system that consistently exceeds community expectations. So while I think we're striving to reach both of those, I know that we definitely have a way to go, especially on that vision. And that's be part of the things that we're talking about today. And I promise I don't have any bridge projects to talk about, so we can get right through that. I realize you can't read this, but I want to talk a little bit about just some of the progress that we're making. And that's just a snapshot of the first page of our project sheet that we look at on almost a daily basis. Since January of last year, of 2022, to present, we've had 167 projects total. We've completed 134 of those. That totals $3.9 million worth of improvements that we've made to the park system. So to go through a list of some of those that we've completed or are close to, the Deer Creek Trail and the Deer Creek Trail Extension projects were completed during that time. Replacement of the turf at Bettis Complex, the soccer field or the multipurpose field. We'll talk a little bit more about turf out at Bettis as we go through this. Gage Park mini train replacement, which I'm pretty happy to say that I think we've kind of worked out the bugs. At least we hope so, but it's been running pretty well here lately. So feel good about that. The Lake Shawnee campground, while I can't say it's completely done, there's a few odds and ends left. And to be honest, we'll be planting grass and things here this fall because this isn't a good time to grow grass. But it did open this past weekend. So we had campers out there in the new part, and I think it was received pretty well. So, and if you haven't had a chance to go out there, I think it's very impressive. It's really been a nice change. So here's some things that we're working on still. So we've got really over $600,000 worth of park improvements that are in progress. Some of those will be done this year. The rest will be done next year. We've got the Oakland Billard Aquatic Project, which we hope to be done in summer of next year. I mentioned earlier today that we'll have our first public engagement this weekend. Family Park Phase 1, summer of 2024. And I know that's a pretty aggressive timeline, but we know that we won't have the entire project done by then, but we really hope to have those pickleball courts done, I think, by the summer. That would be the goal, and then move forward after that. And we're also working on a Greenways and Trails Master Plan. So this is an updated plan from one that I think Commissioner Rippon probably was heavily involved with at one point. So that is, we have asked for a grant for that. If we don't get it, then we'll have to figure out another way, but I feel pretty confident that that'll happen. So here's just some things, just to give you an idea. I just kind of want to touch base on, a lot of times, I know in the previous times I've done this, we really focus on all the negative things and the problems and the issues, and we have time to talk about that. But I thought I'd like to just talk about all the good things. You know, I feel like we've made a lot of progress over the last few years, and just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. So as we get into the budget, here's just some notable increases for 2023. Our union wages and benefits have gone up quite a bit. I know the clerical staff got a 9% raise. I think we were happy about that. We like to see that, but that's a big jump. Our temporary and seasonal request is 123, almost 100, well, 123.4, whatever. We want to increase our lifeguard wages by $1, and so that reflects that. That's really the bulk of that jump. Same way with intermittent staff. We'd like to raise our community center staff and our amenities staff by $1 an hour. So this would get them all. Right now they're at the 10 or 10.25 an hour starting wage. This would get them up to 11.25 in that range. We think that that's important as we try to keep pace with what other people are paying. We feel very fortunate this year. Amenities has been a little bit of a struggle, and camps are just enough. So we're running okay, but we could use actually a few more camp counselors. But lifeguards, we really got lucky this year and had a great turnout. So, but regardless, I think we want to try to stay ahead of that and make sure that in the future we're able to open up all these facilities. So, insurance premiums, liability insurance, that I'm sure that other people have talked about this in their budget hearings, but that went up quite a bit for us. That's over $300,000. Software subscription and support. That, quite honestly, is a 3-year subscription for Cartograph. So we didn't have that in our budget last year. This would cover us for the next 3 years, but that's a pretty substantial jump. And so to wrap this up, really, our total budget request for 2014 is $1,488,025 higher than our current budget. So that's about a 9% increase over where we are last year. And I know I went through that pretty quick, and if you've got questions on all of this, I think it's a good time to fire away, and then we can get into the CIP, or I can just move into CIP if you'd prefer.
Questions?
Not right now.
All right.
I guess I have one real quick
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
The Cartograph, why would we do 3 years paid up front rather than just on a third of that annually? Do they not
That's a great
allow us to
question.
do
I
that?
think it's possibly because that's the way they're billing it, but
Actually, excuse me, we're exploring 3-year and 5-year options. Our contract comes up.
Come up to the mic.
sorry.
Apologies, Josh Lehman, Parks and Recreation. Our contract comes up for expiration at the end of the year. We have not gotten figures from them yet, so we're exploring 3-year and possibly also 5-year options. Based on what we had paid the previous 3-year contract, we tried to anticipate with the cost of everything going up enough to cover that. When we do go forward with that renewal, that will also be split out between Parks and Recreation, Public Works, Solid Waste, and Facilities.
Okay.
And just, you know, talking about cartograph, I mean, that's, because I know we've talked about it before up here. It's just, you know, it's an asset management system. We also use it for work orders. It ties into See-Click Fix, so if somebody logs an issue in one of our parks, it goes directly into cartograph. From there, it creates a work order, and that work order goes right to the staff person that's responsible for it. So that side of it, I think, for us works really well. You know, there's other areas that we could probably be using it more, but for what we do use it for, I think it's really something nice to have. So I hope that answers your question.
Yep.
All right, so we'll get into CIP. There's only one new project on here, so you've seen all of these before. I think as I go through these here, and I'll try to go relatively quickly, but our master plan is an important one. It does expire. This will be the last year for it. It was a 10-year plan. They adopted it in 2014, so this will be the 10-year. We do need to have an active master plan to meet our CAPRA standards. And to be honest with you, I think it's time. I think a 10-year master plan is a long time. That's a long plan. I think a lot of things can happen. Look how much staff turnover we've had in 10 years and how many things have changed. So moving forward, we'll be asking to do a 5-year master plan, not a 10-year plan. So that's on there. Hopefully that's something we can get done. Grange Hall, so that's obviously at Old Prairie Town, a reception space. We think that would complement Old Prairie Town. We do have a commitment from the Friends of Ward Mead for either $500,000 or $600,000, somewhere in that range. And the last estimates that I saw on the project put the project at about $2.5 million. So we think between the gift and this, we'd be able to do that. The turf on Pony Field at Bettis, if you go down a couple of spots here, we've got the Pony Field, which is in the worst shape, and then we've got the quad field, the quads that are also in bad shape. We do have, this is a complicated conversation, but we do have some money in the foundation to do some of this. And I think that there would be some cost savings if we were able to do them both at the same time, as opposed to splitting them up. But you're looking at $1 million to do that. I think we've got about $400,000 in the foundation. Well, I know. We've got $400,000 that we could spend on this. It is something that turf is well past its life expectancy. And we're getting to the point now where we're going to have to do some patching more than we've done already, which is not ideal. It creates uneven heights, tripping hazards. It looks bad, but we're starting to get to the point where you're seeing the threads. And when you're seeing the threads, you've gone way too long. So this is really something we've got to get ahead of, I think. And then, you know, from our standpoint, we need to come up with a way, and we've talked about this, and I know the foundation is, like I said, there's money going into the foundation every year. That's how this $400,000 has been accumulated. But it's probably not enough. We need to find other ways to fund this turf replacement so that we're not up here asking for it during the CIP. Something that will sustain this, because we've added more turf, you know, and we've got in Vista now. And it looks beautiful, but 7, 8, 9 years from now, it's going to need to be replaced. So we're going to have to figure that out and get ahead of that. Start to come up with a plan where we're not having to come up here and ask for money, where it's budgeted, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to skip ahead here. So Dornwood, you know, this project started many years ago. It started before I got here. As a matter of fact, most of the improvements that we've done to Dornwood, not all, but most, happened right before I started. So we'd like to finish this up. We've done 2 fields. There's 2 more for sure that we want to do. Dugouts, absolutely need a new concession stand and probably a new restroom. You think about the trail improvements that we've done, and now you've got all these folks coming in there and the splash pad. We're starting to see some real activity at Dornwood outside of just what's going on at the baseball softball complex. So I think improvements that we make there are going to benefit everybody. So Lake Shawnee Maintenance and Fleet Shop. So this is one we've been talking about for a long time, the fleet shop. As we all know, we're, as Commissioner Rippon likes to say, we're squatters out there on city property, and we need to get that fleet shop out of there. The Lake Shawnee Maintenance Shop is working, but it's occupying one of the prettiest places on the lake, and it'd be nice to get that out of there and kind of return that area, our office included, quite honestly, to the public. Not that I want to quit officing out at Lake Shawnee, I definitely don't, but we could do some things and do some things better. The Lake Shawnee Boathouse is the only new project that we've added, and we did apply for that Sprint grant, which obviously we didn't get, but we have plans and we're ready to go, and I think that this is obviously, that's a big number right there, and I think grants and other things will have to play into that as we move forward. But that's one that I at least want to get on your radar so we can have those conversations in the future. West Edge Road repair, I heard Kurt Niehaus say earlier he was going to take care of that. So did you guys hear that? No? I thought I heard it. That's a big one. And honestly, I don't have it on here, but we made improvements to East Edge a few years ago, and we didn't do the entire East Edge. So there's road work to be done even on East Edge. But West Edge, I think, is in the most need of repair. In Vista Softball Complex, this is one that I think there was ARPA funds that were not, I don't want to say designated for it, but that there was discussion about using ARPA funds for this project. We'd still like to do this project. I think that it goes a long way to continuing what we've started and having some equity between what is essentially the boys complex at Bettis and the girls complex at Invista. Not saying that we don't have boys and girls playing at both, because we do, but predominantly that's the breakdown. So restroom expansion, concession expansion, new entryway. So we'd like to see that done. We think that's important. I know we're just talking about phase 1 of Family Park, and we're excited about that. But I don't want to lose track of the bigger picture and that we have other things we'd like to accomplish in that park. So phase 2, which would include more trail work, which would include some the pump track, which possibly a community center. There's a lot of things in that master plan that we're not going to touch in phase 1. So, and then the last thing, oops, sorry, on here, is Lake Shawnee Shelter number 5. It's in pretty bad shape. It's kind of in a, it's kind of got, well, it has some wood rot and some other things. So we really need to do something with it at some point, either tear it down or rebuild it. And our hope is that we could rebuild it and put something, it's an open air shelter, and we would go back with another open air shelter is the idea. It's on a beautiful spot on the lake, but it's in pretty bad shape.
Tim, were there any Gage Park projects that you removed from this?
Yeah,
CI?
I put those here on the next page, which is the Gage Parks tax. Thanks for that segue, Bill. So the playland renovation is one that I'm really excited about, and we want to try to do. Quite honestly, I'd love to get started this year, at the end of the year, and then finish it in 2024. The money for the tax is starting to come in. We're starting to see some revenue in there, or some funds in there. So we are working right now with a couple of groups to do some design work, some ideas. I think things that we can bring here and sort of show you what we're looking at. But For Playland, I mean, we're thinking of pretty much a complete renovation. That would include new playground equipment, maybe a shelter or two, some sidewalks, some seating. Really go in there and clean that up. Now, there's some things that we would be able to save. We wouldn't get rid of all of it. There's some of the equipment that's definitely worth keeping. But yeah, we'll have some designs relatively soon that we can share with each of you, and you can weigh in on what you like.
Is there any plans for doing a master plan?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. We're, the Gage Park Improvement Authority has tentatively agreed to share the cost of doing a Gage Park master plan. Quite honestly, the zoo already has a master plan, and the Discovery Center is working on. They don't have one yet, but they're starting that process. So they're sharing in the cost of just our plan. Because there's the 5% of the tax goes in there as discretionary funds. And they're willing to do that because I think they understand that us master planning the entire park is actually good for both of those entities as well. Especially when you start talking about infrastructure and stormwater runoff and those types of things, which affects everybody in the park. So they're willing. We've got an MOU. It's not signed, but it's been approved by them, and it'll have to come up here and be approved by you. And at our next meeting, they're gonna look at the RFP that we put together, and if they like that, then we'll take all of that up here and ask for your blessing to move forward with the Gage Park Master Plan. And we'll have an MOU with them outlining the fact that they're going to match the funds and what their responsibility is. They will not have authority over what we do. However, they will get to have some input in the process. So I would liken it a little bit to the advisory board. You know, the advisory board will be involved. They'll get to look at what we're doing and the plans that we have and get to weigh in. They'll do the same thing. But ultimately, it'll be this board that makes the decision on what happens. So, and I've been pretty adamant with them that that's how that's got to work. And so I feel good about where we are, but yes. And that'll help, you know, as you look at the other two projects, Playland, I think, really needs to happen sooner rather than later. But the Rose Garden and Snyder's Cabin, you know, let's see what happens, quite honestly, when we get the master plan. Those priorities may change. I think the Rose Garden, there's some things we've talked about doing, and I absolutely think that's important. It's not that I don't think Snyder's Cabin's important either, but we may end up doing something different. So we'll see how that all shakes out. And then last but not least, we've got enough money, we believe, in our revolving fund to renovate the rec building at Lake Shawnee, which is the building where we have our camps at Lake Shawnee. It's right there on Tin Man Circle. And it needs a little love. Not only the building, but the playground could use a facelift. So
Is that the one that the preschool was in?
it used to
That
be,
one spot?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So, yeah, with that, that is it.
Okay, with regards to Gage Park, are we keeping track of all the funds that are spent in Gage Park? I know that it's unrealistic to expect a dollar for dollar decrease in the budget, but I think there is an expectation that we do have some sort of a decrease, and a lot of those costs that we've been paying specifically for Blaisdell Pool, which I believe operates at a loss. I mean, we want to probably transfer that over, don't you think? I mean,
I do not think
No,
that, to be
okay.
honest. And here's why. I feel like that through this process, we made a promise that we were going to, if they voted for this tax, that they would see improvements at Gage Park because of it. And I know you're not necessarily saying dollar for, or maybe you did, dollar for dollar, but if we did that, then we would be right where we are now. I mean, there would be no improvements other than what we were able to do currently. This, in my mind, this money is money that we come in to do these sort of capital projects, not operational costs. You may feel differently, but I feel pretty strongly that if we start using this for operational costs, they're not going to see much change. It's just going to be, you know, the same, because especially if we no longer use budgeted money at Gage Park, we only use this money at Gage Park, then we definitely would not be ahead, in my opinion.
But we won't know for really one fiscal year how much tax is able to be collected or how much revenue we would see from that Gage Park. We also have to look at the small, very, very small sliver that the Gage Park Authority has over, that could go to any project within Gage
Yeah.
Park. But I thought that there was, and Tim, I think I agree with you in some parts and I disagree with you in some parts, that there was some expectation that this would be a way to reduce the overall operating cost of Parks and Rec, at least some, by having that offset by Gage Park revenue from the sales tax. Maybe not a dollar for dollar, but at least having it reduced some so that we would be able to look at those resources being allocated elsewhere
Yeah.
within Parks and Recreation, or a decrease in the Parks and Recreation.
Right.
No other.
Well, I think you're right in one regard, that the money that we would have been trying to spend there to do, for instance, we were, going to try to do some renovations at Playland, and we would have done that through our 3R fund. And so now that 3R fund could be used someplace else. So I think you'll see improvements in other areas as well as Gage Park because of the funds. But ultimately, this is, you guys decide how this works. But selfishly speaking, I want to be able to do a lot of cool things everywhere. And that's how we do it, by,
Well, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I guess I'm not necessarily saying we need to immediately just cut however many millions of dollars we get out of that from your budget. What I'm saying is it would be nice if we would have some documentation of what is being spent in Gage Park so that we have an idea of, how much we're spending there versus how much the tax is bringing in for the authority. Because you said we may not make any progress. We won't make progress. Well, we don't know that because we've not seen, I don't think up until right now, we've ever differentiated one park from another in our budget. It's always been Parks and Recreation and not Parks and Recreation and Gage Park.
correct.
And so I think that's what I'm saying, is that when we spend money there, I think we need to document it and keep track of it so that we have an idea of, are there potential savings in the long run, and still are we able to make the progress that we want to make?
That's very reasonable. Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll keep track for sure. Betty and I have talked about how we're going to monitor the money from the Gage Park Authority, and we'll track that for sure. But I think what you're asking is we track everything. Money that's spent out of our budget, out of 3R, we probably won't spend a lot of 3R now there because we're relying on the tax. But we'll definitely be using budget money for staffing and daily maintenance and those sorts of things. So yeah, I think that we right now we do it to a certain extent through Cartograph as we log the work being done. But I think to do what you're talking about doing, we'd probably have to sit down with Betty and come up with a better plan to really make sure that we're tracking it the way I think you're talking about.
I think the real constant is your operational budget for the utilities and things like that, and maybe salaries, figure all that in there. But projects, it's kind of hit and miss from one year to another, so it's going to be hard to put a number there. Maybe through the Cartograph, you can be able to tell kind of over a range of years how much you spend there on capital improvements.
Right.
And that might be where this reflects the savings in there, but, not every year they do project or a significant project in Gage Park. So.
Honestly, as you look at that, I had that spreadsheet up earlier that showed all the projects. So we can sort that. I can sort that right now based on location. So I can tell you all the projects that we've done if they were big enough to make this list. What I would have trouble doing is, or what we're not tracking now, we should be, I'm not sitting here today feeling real confident that we have it, but, all the daily maintenance that happens there, because I'll have Tom Hammer, who's going to spend part of his day at Gage Park, but then he's going to be at a whole bunch of other locations throughout the day. That's where cartograph should come in, because if he's logging his time, then we know the exact dollar amount where he spent it. And we do that. We're attempting to do that. So we've got the things in place to make that happen, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Can I just make a comment on that? Though? I think, though, we also have to keep in mind that we don't want to get into the weeds so much that we spend more time and therefore the money associated with that time than it's worth. You know what I mean? We've got to kind of find that balance of what gives us the information that we need and the information that's helpful without putting so much time and effort into it that we are creating so much more cost by tracking that. You know what I mean? We just need to find a balance in that.
Any other questions?
Nope.
I do have a quick question, if you don't mind. Just because on the CIP spreadsheet, we put down 2022 COP on a couple of items, and I'm not sure, if those items really were planning to be spent out of the previous $10 million COP you've already been issued, or not.
Oh, you're talking about these ones here?
Yes.
Yeah, so if I understand your question, we had talked about several projects, you're right, out of that bond money. I think from the way that I tried to approach it was that these are possibilities. There's not going to be enough money. Like, for instance, we think we're going to spend roughly $4 million at Oakland and probably close to that, about the same amount at Family Park. If that comes to fruition, we've got $2 million left. And as you can see from this list, we've got Dornwood, we've got Grange Hall. What we don't even have on here was the splash park that we talked about at possibly at Shawnee South. So there's other projects, and I think they're not all going to be able to be funded out of that bond money.
So how do we approach that as far as, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, the 2022 COP money is a finite number.
Sure.
Right now, we're showing on here the Grange Hall and the Dornwood complex, which is $3.5 million. What you're saying is there isn't $3.5 million left.
No, but I know that at least from my perspective and from the department's perspective, we never went out and said, we're doing all of these projects.
No.
Like, these are projects that we're picking from. We have tentatively selected two. I mean, quite honestly, Family Park, we have not negotiated a guaranteed maximum price for either one yet. So those are just estimates on my part, but through the conversation, I feel pretty confident that that's about where we're going to be. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think there's enough there to do every one of those projects.
I guess what I'm just trying to clarify, and I don't know if we can clarify, but when we're looking at all these different funding sources, we have to identify a funding source. I'm not saying you have said, I think you've been very honest and very open with what you're saying.
I see what you're saying.
But we have to identify a funding source, whether it's new CIP money down in the future or whether it's the COP money you've already have.
Right. I think there's enough money, maybe, probably, to do one of those projects.
Okay.
And then we'll have to figure out where we go from there.
I think that at least clarifies it for the commissioners, which is all I wanted to.
And there's, like one of these projects, have multiple funding too. Most of these are just showing one fund. There's always that possibility of having
Right.
Yeah, well, now, like
multiple funds.
on the Grange Hall, the only thing that's showing would be the county portion.
Yeah.
Any
But,
portion from the foundation or wouldn't be shown on here.
But it,
For these projects, as they were submitted, each one just had one county source of funding.
Yeah.
So I think what we're saying is one of the two items that marked as 2022 COP would require new funding, not the existing
Right. Yeah.
COP money we already have.
Yeah.
Tim, we talked about, and you sort of alluded to this on the turf. I mean, how many turf assets do we have right now? I mean,
Ooh, what's the number?
6 at
4, 5,
Bettis,
6,
7 at
10,
Bettis, I guess.
11, 12, I think.
So is there, I mean, can we come up with like a 10-year replacement program or something like that where we contract with one company and they're just scheduled to do 1 or 2 fields a year, just kind of in rotation as we need them?
Maybe, I think just getting the funding to do that will be the issue, and we've started trying to come up with ideas like, these are conversations I'll have to have with Betty and you, but like, we charge $1 admission into Bettis, and maybe that needs to be going into the turf replacement fund. Our beverage contract, which is currently with Coke, a portion of that needs to be going into that because a lot of it's generated out there. Just coming up with ways to do that. Perfect Game, that plays a lot of tournaments for us, they put money into it. Most of that money that we have was generated from them. They negotiated that contract, and that money's been going in there. So I think that's how we do it. And then if we can come up with the funding, and then, I think maybe there's some cost savings by having a long-term agreement possibly with somebody where we do some on a regular scheduled basis.
is there anything you can do to extend the life of the turf? I mean, do we require them to wear cleatless shoes?
We
or
try to
something
do
like
that, and to be honest, we're pretty successful, and I don't want to, this is getting televised, so I won't call out who doesn't do it, but we have some groups that are a little harder headed about it than others. But most of them are pretty good about following our rules, and no metal spikes, and gum and sunflower seeds and those sorts of things. And it also is incumbent upon us to make sure we're taking care of it, that we're raking it, and making sure we're spreading that rubber mulch around the where it should be, especially in the batter's boxes and those areas where it gets kicked out right away. So there's a little bit you can do, but that 8 to 10 years is really the number. And we're like at 13 years, so we're well past it.
Any other questions on CIP? A question about your staffing.
Yeah.
Have you filled all the lanes now?
I think we're sitting pretty well. I was listening to Brian Cole talk this morning about being 20 staff down, and I don't know how we'd operate if we were 20 staff down, but we're doing okay. I think better than we have been doing. I think what bothers me more than anything is when we put a job out and we only get 2 or 3 applications. It doesn't seem like we're getting a big pool of applicants. And so, the more the better. The more choice you have, hopefully you're coming away with even better employees. But that's really it. I mean, right now we've done a pretty good job, and and quite honestly, part of that is that we've eliminated some of those jobs that we couldn't fill. We're not advertising for foresters. We're going to contract a lot of that out because we had them open for over a year. And we just know that based on what we're paying, and quite honestly, like forestry is not necessarily just a Shawnee County issue. They have this, when I was in Lawrence, we had the same issue. Forestry was a hard one to fill because the county just doesn't pay enough, and if you do get somebody and train them, it doesn't take them long to figure out they can go make a lot more money somewhere else. So I just don't think it makes sense for us to try to do that moving forward. So we tried to eliminate some of those jobs and then put those in other positions that we can fill. And we've really tried to thin out a little bit at the top and push down to the bottom, so we've got more people out in the field doing the work. And I think we've been pretty successful.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right. Anybody need a break or anything? Okay.
Kellen's in the
Kellen. Kellen, or send Kellen in. Next.
Principal Rippon wants to see you.
Yes. Yeah.
How's it going today?
Very good.
A riveting day of budget.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Stuff you already have, but small, concise little packet.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. I'll just go through a couple quick highlights here. We've presented you our budget synopsis and our budget for next year, but just wanted to touch on some of the quick highlights. Most importantly, some of the expenditure increases versus last budget year, and kind of how we're forecasting and looking at revenue expectations for the coming year. So first and foremost, the budget in front of you is an increase versus last year in the amount of $262,833 versus the 2023 budget. The biggest pieces of that increase, or the largest piece of that increase rather, is the property insurance premium. That was budgeted last year for $79,000, and we have adjusted that budget for this coming year for 2024 to the amount of $247,000. Obviously, just a few weeks ago, we came to you with that budget amendment adjustment for this year's operating allocation for an adjustment of about $127,000. This would effectively absorb that same amount, plus adding an additional 20% on top of that premium for next fiscal year. The other increase in the indirect expenses is a 5% cost of living and wage increase. Typically, we have requested 3%. However, what we're seeing is, with the cost of living increase and the cost of inflation, 5% is really where the request has landed, but we still don't think that will kind of fall in line with where the forecasted cost of living increase and cost of inflation is likely due to go in 2024. So we have adjusted that 2% in addition to what our request was for last fiscal year. On the flip side, we are expecting to generate about $100,000 in increased operational revenues for next year. That is due in part to the expansion of our booking of concert and family entertainment. We have budgeted for 7 concerts for next fiscal year. We hope to hit close to that this year, but we are budgeting for 7 of those events in next fiscal. In addition to that, sponsorship and advertising sales, we have started to see an increase in that category of our business. We are actively looking at trying to fill that vacant position. In the interim, I've been taking over that role of our operation in the building, and we've made some headway there. We just announced Cable Dahmer's partnership activation for the title sponsorship of the box office, and then we signed on a Casamigos premium tequila partnership with the building, and that contract will go for an additional 5 years beyond this year. In addition to that, we have solicited an offer for our open suite for a partner that has interest in that suite, and we do expect that to be contracted before year's end this year. So all the suites will be contracted and owned on a multi-year basis, and then we will.
At approximately what value? I mean, I guess I'm not looking to get down to the dollar, but
Sure.
I mean, is it a suite that is worth 100,000? Is it a suite that's worth 2,000?
So the suite, on an annual basis, they'll range anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year. The term of that contract we look for a minimum of a 3-year term. We have had a bit of difficulty getting it to contract for that length of term. So it may end up being a 1-year term deal. It may be a 2-year term deal, but for all intents and purposes, we try and make those a 3-year term, which would become, relatively anywhere from a $90,000 piece of business to a $150,000 piece of business for the building.
And does that equate to just the suite itself, or does that equate to a block of tickets that goes with the suite?
It would just be the suite. Your tickets do come with the suite, but it would not include any other ancillary pieces of revenue, which would be, catering, food and beverage, things of that nature. That would be on top of that. So those would be added revenue drivers in addition to that suite contractual purchase. That's pretty much it from the highlights section of what I wanted to present to you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have as far as what has been outlined in the budget narrative or anything in the budgeting documents.
Kellen, your concessions, I assumed that would jump quite a bit after taking over for Heart of America.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's actually decreasing from this year.
Yeah, the base value of the concessions is decreasing slightly because that commission is lower. However, the theory is we will be doing larger volume, but we will also be making up that variance through catering sales, which is a new segment of business, which is reflected on here, but it's reflected on here fairly conservatively. This year's catering revenues that we will collect for 2023 will be a pretty sizable chunk of revenue for the building, but that is due in part by a couple large catering events that we have or that we've had this year that may not come back in '24, and I'm speaking primarily towards the Governor's Ball, which is a large piece of catering business for the building. In addition to that, we also have some other pieces of business on an annual basis, like the Kansas Chamber Banquet Dinner, the 2030 Gala, which at the time as we were developing this forecasting and pro forma and budgeting versus where we're at today, I can tell you that that catering number that we are projecting in the budget for next year should be a little bit higher than that, is what we are anticipating to bring in. And I say that because those catering revenues or the catering packages that we're seeing built for those events are exceeding some of that expectation. So yes, to your point, we are budgeting for a slight decrease in the concessions portion of the revenue, and that's mainly just built at the same volume that we've done over the past in 2022 and kind of what we've seen in this first quarter of 2023. But we do anticipate those volume numbers to increase, which will help close that gap a little bit in the years to come. I did also want to touch on a couple other things that we've talked about, but our show fund, or our event procurement fund, which was part of the capital made at the beginning of our management contract, that fund is sitting at about $179,000. And I've talked a little bit in our advisory board meetings about ways we're getting creative on how we look to utilize that funding source. And one way we've started to use that funding source is to offer a rebate or a bonus incentive to promoters to book their business at the facility. And that's not just for concerts or family show type business. That's for, trade show and exhibition show type business. We have made some rebate offers already as early as the week before last on bringing back 2 shows, which would be those consumer type shows in the exhibition hall space. We've offered that rebate to a promoter looking to bring back the RV and the boat and outdoor show, so 2 separate additional pieces of business. We were able to negotiate and come to a negotiation, which should be making an announcement here in the next 2 weeks to bring back the lawn and garden show with a new promoter. Not a new promoter to the building. We've actually worked with this promoter in other capacities, but new promoter for that piece of business. So bringing that show back, and that'll be the first return of that show since its closing during COVID. So that lawn and garden show has not been produced since 2019, and it will be coming back in 2024. We hope to do the same with the RV show and the boat and outdoor show, which are kind of historical pieces of annual business that unfortunately, due to circumstances around COVID, have just not been able to come back and make it back. So we're trying to incentivize them to bring those back by giving them rebates. The other piece is we have a concert that has verbally confirmed for October, classic rock concert, and part of that is we used a buyer to get that show, and we have offered to pay the buyer's commission out of that show fund account. So it helps offset some of the financial liability on the event, but still allows and incentivizes those folks to bring their content to the building. So we're trying to get very creative in how we utilize that account, not let it sit stagnant, and use it to generate more content for the building.
What about sports? Are we gonna have arena football again?
We do. We do have arena football. We have 2 years left on their current contract. They have indicated to us that they are coming back for their second and third year. They're currently in the CIF, which is the Champions Indoor Football League. I can't speak to what league they'll be in next year or the year following, but it's my understanding that they will be back, whether in that league or a different league.
I noticed you had skating in here for hockey, youth hockey, and 24. Even though we don't have a hockey team, looks like you're gonna produce some ice and.
I don't have any rink revenue in
I
for
thought there was-
24.
Well, I was looking at something here.
Not since 19.
Yeah, 2019 was the last year we budgeted rink revenue. We budgeted $42,000 for that. That's going to be on that last page in your packet.
Do we still have the
I was just looking
Zamboni?
at this.
What's that?
Do you still have the Zamboni?
We do, yeah. We still have fully capable use of our ice sheet and ice surface. We actually have holds. I can tell you, hopefully the news isn't watching, but we have holds for Disney on Ice through Feld Entertainment for 2024. So there still is the ability to utilize that infrastructure, and we are constantly still trying to book that infrastructure. There's 2 other pieces of business with Cirque du Soleil who have shows which perform on ice as well. So we're certainly not ruling those out. In the event that we do contract and book one of those shows, we will have some capital expense to go into the ice plant, some compressor rebuilds and some glycol holding tank system replenishment and things of that nature that we would have to do anyway to get that system back up and running for those events. But yes, we're still actively pursuing pieces of business that use the ice floor.
I misread that on that hockey. You do have 0 in there. I was looking at the number above that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yes.
Got a couple questions on some of your CIP stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got a security camera overhaul in 2025. You know, personally, I think security of the guests is priority number one.
Yep.
And I know you've taken some measures to make sure that that happens with the clear bag policy and everything like that. But I know that when we had the kids wrestling, there was quite a backup at security. We talked
Yeah.
about maybe changing the strategy with that event.
Yeah.
But it appeared that maybe we need to add more metal detectors for large events like that. Have you guys looked into doing that? Is that something that we need to put on the CIP?
So a couple things there. As we've been dealing with security, we have restructured the way we are utilizing the walk-through magnetometers and metal detection units. The structure we changed to, we actually implemented right before graduations of this year. And what that allows patrons to do now is they can walk directly through those metal detectors and magnetometers without emptying their pockets. They can carry their purses through or any approved bag for that matter through those metal detectors. And we have set that and worked with the sheriff's office and a couple other security consultants to set those levels to where they're picking up only dense metal objects, which would be of concern to us, things like handguns and large knives and things of that matter. So we have changed that structure of how we utilize them. It's rare that I think we're going to need additional units. However, it could happen. We have looked into the possibility of either renting those additional units on a need-to basis or borrowing some of that infrastructure from potentially the sheriff's office or some other partners in town that might be able to supplement that support service. In addition to that, we have contracted with a security third-party consultant called hold on a second, spacing it off the top of my head.
Free State?
No, not Free State. Do you recall the name? We have contracted over the course of this year and for next year a third-party security consultant that really helps us dive deeper into our security services. We've contracted with them to do 2 red team assessments, which is essentially a secret shopper, if you will, where they send security consultants of their business into our facilities during an event to try and not necessarily breach areas of security concern, but really just test our team's responses to those situations and or access control points and or getting things through the security checkpoint locations. In addition to that, they're helping us rewrite some of our security manuals and operations and emergency response operations. So yes, to your point, we are taking a very close focus on security moving forward. The reason that the security cameras are behind some of the stuff that we've requested in CIP for 2024 are because the 2024 request, which is Heritage Hall, that HVAC system is currently in dire need of repair. It's about 5 to 10 years past its useful life. It has broken two, I'm going to say this wrong, but I'll get Matt, our operations director or chief engineer, to help me. But the control rods which control the fan speed and the compressor inside that HVAC system has broken. It is a part that is not remanufactured or no longer being manufactured by that company. So we've had to have that custom built through some local metal fabricators in town. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to do that again this year. So that's where that request has been made for Heritage Hall.
I just want to clarify, because I'm showing Heritage Hall is 2026.
Uh-oh. I
Should
had
that
it
be-
on 2024 Part 1 on my sheet.
It does say 26 on here, but
Okay,
So that should be I was showing, for 2024, I was showing the portable chairs and utility vehicles.
I have 2024 Part 1 on mine, and it might just be a mistake on my sheet, but I've got Heritage Hall HVAC as Part 1, and then the utility vehicles as Part 2 for 2024.
and the chairs.
The chairs are part of Part 1.
Okay. I did have one other question. An item that I don't see in your CIP request was the basketball court.
Yes.
I know that's something, I think it's still got the Expo Center branding on it.
It does.
What's the plan there?
We've actually been looking at utilizing our current capital funding to possibly resurface that court. Not completely replace the court, but repair some areas on the court and then resurface it with new paint and sealant. That is something that our operations team has been working on for the last few months. We were hopeful and optimistic that the state Spark grant would have covered that in addition to the acquisition of some sport court flooring. We were not awarded that grant, so unfortunately we didn't have all our eggs in that basket, but we are looking at other ways to resurface that court.
So how old is that court?
I can't tell you with exact certainty how old the court is, but I can tell you it is the original court that was purchased with the facility. So
in
I
the
would
80s then?
I would assume the late 80s, early 90s.
The technology on those basketball courts, is it still essentially the same, or?
No, it's not. The new technology does have some upside and benefit, but it also does have some downside as well. The longevity of the newer court systems aren't quite as robust. More plastic components as opposed to the steel pen components, which are utilized in our court infrastructure. You know, our court isn't a bad court. It does need some repair and it does need some love. I will certainly attest to that. But I don't think a full replacement of the court is in order. I do, however, feel that there is a need to repair some areas of that court, close up some of the gapping between the panels, repair some of those pin and metal bracket components within the court, and then sand it down and resurface it. And that's what we're looking at doing now.
What's the estimated cost on refinishing it?
Our early estimated numbers are coming between $40,000 and $100,000, depending on how extensive we're looking to get. A full replacement of the court would be in excess of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Yes.
Have you looked at all at, you have utility vehicles, have you looked at all at leasing those?
We have. We have looked at leasing those. We also have looked at, you know, what the ability might look like to purchase that out of our current capital outlay. And I think, given the infrastructure that we have on site, I think we can get by with potentially just purchasing one and or leasing one unit. The leasing cost, you know, if we replaced it every few years, I think the leasing cost has its benefit. But ultimately, I think probably owning that piece of equipment makes more financial sense for us for the long term. But that utility vehicle that we are looking at currently can range anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000. So
Well,
it
the
is
golf
pretty
carts,
significant
you know,
expense.
obviously,
Yeah.
the county has a contract for golf carts. I don't know if it's something that you would be able to piggyback off of our contract
Sure,
in order to get a better price.
that might be the way we
I
go.
don't
Do
Just
you-
something to check into with
Yeah.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Do you know if their utility vehicles are a part of that same golf cart
I do
contract?
not know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I will touch base with Parks and Rec and see if we can look into that a little further. We have asked for $100,000 less in capital funding for this year, just as a heads up.
Small victory.
All right.
Small victory.
Well, any other questions? Thank you, Kelvin.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right.
Prevent Advisors is the name of our third-party security consultant.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I was facing, I couldn't.
So 3 of those projects have the wrong year on it.
All right, our next department is Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Commissioners. Amanda Monholland with the Commission Office. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. There is not much change, I'll go ahead and tell you that right now, from the previous year. But here we have our first with comparison overview from 2023 to 2024, and there is a difference of an increase of $27,278. And in the next couple of slides, I'll just dive deeper into each of these to give you the reasons. First, for personnel services, the increase was $26,644 this year compared to last, and that was just due to the typical increases in wages across the board throughout the department. We also had a small increase in contractual services of $384, and this is because we had a membership dues increase and a slight increase in our travel line. Next, with supplies, we had another small increase of $250 in our request for supplies, and this was an increase in office supplies and our departmental food line with our water service, which is around roughly $65 per month. And so back is the final request of $576,602. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I will note we do have a fund that we are working out of, which is the job ledger for our multimedia room, which we currently have right now $9,250 in that fund. However, it does have pending transactions, and it's roughly right around 7 right now to finish the project.
Anyone have any questions?
No.
All right,
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
quick. Thank you
Oh,
very,
are you done?
no,
Oh.
I'm done.
All right. Thank you.
Easy one.
Not a huge budget.
Would you like to take a break, or would you like to plow ahead?
County councilors next. The Jim Crow Show.
Good afternoon, Jim Krause, Shawnee County Councilor. I've presented the budget presentation for the record. If anyone watching would like to request some more of the details, I'm not going to go into the great detail that this goes into, but it's there for anyone who's interested. Really quickly, the counselor's office represents Shawnee County, the entity, its principal members, the Board of County Commissioners, its elected officials and department heads, and all employees who are acting within their scope of their employment on behalf of Shawnee County. The key takeaway is we do not represent members of the general public. We are attorneys that only represent Shawnee County, the entity, through its principals. I've listed out the duties of the county counselor, which you have seen many times. It is in the slideshow. Just showing the structure of the county counselor's office. There's one big change from last year. Joni Thadani was an assistant county counselor in this office. She was appointed to become the planning director for Shawnee County. We have been able to hire Kyle Edelman as an assistant county counselor in her place. He's doing a great job for us, receiving training and moving up with his duties and responsibilities. As you can see from this list, we still have over 50 years of experience in the office handling these matters on behalf of Shawnee County. There are two members of our administrative staff, Tabitha Push, who's our legal office manager, and Cheyenne Meyer, who's a legal assistant. Both of them work very hard to keep us up to speed, on time, and to get all projects completed. They also work very hard on the tax foreclosure sale process. Before I get into the numbers, let me talk about a couple of the other main projects that we're working on. I've brought you up to speed briefly on the staffing. You're all aware of the staffing issue. We are hopefully finalizing the code rewrite project. The company or the vendor that we have hired to work on that has sent us back a draft. We have worked with that draft with various departments. We've sent it back to that company. That company is supposedly putting that draft into final form, and then we'll meet with us hopefully one last time to put the finishing touches on it, and then we will be ready to publish the code online, have it available, an up-to-date code. Still hoping to get that finished this summer, early fall. We're basically waiting on our vendor to get that draft back to us. The tax foreclosure process is another large process that we work on every year. We start about a year in advance of filing the case, and that starts with assembling the cases in addition to all of the statutory notice that must be provided to owners and lien holders of property involved. Typically, we had been limited in the past to what the courts would accept to around 150 properties. We've been able to increase that to the point to this year our pending case started with 300 properties. So we've doubled the amount of properties. We're doing that by outsourcing some of the title work, the research that goes into researching ownership and lien holders on each property. That affects part of things that we keep track of when we do that is keep track of the court costs that are ordered in each case to make sure that we remain in balance with the expenses for each tax sale, those costs associated with researching those properties, and then what we receive when we do sell the property. It appears that we've remained in balance, but we will stay on top of that. We're at the pace of where we have a case filed in January of each year. We have the sale for this year's case pending on August 16th of next month. That will be an online sale format. Worked very well the first time. I would say there were some hiccups the second time. I think mostly that had to do with staffing issues that our vendor who conducts the online sale probably had the second year that they did not have the first year. We're hopeful that this process goes a lot smoother. We've been using each year to identify issues that we need to work on, different ways we can notify the public, different ways we can provide information to the public on the properties that are pending, and keep that updated, and we hope that our vendor will be working with us on that. Now to the actual request. Our budget request is about a little over $20,000 more than last year on that, on the counselor's fund. That comes to a 2.8% requested increase. Our tax sale fund is a little smaller, so its budget request from $55,619 up to $60,304 has a percentage-wise 7.9% increase, a little bit more of a percentage increase. But again, we are recovering those costs in our tax sale portion through the court costs that are ordered in each case and that are paid when properties that are selected for the process are sold and or redeemed. So those are the specific numbers I have in the worksheets. Going a deeper dive into the different expenses. When it comes to contractual services and the non-wage piece, most of what we did on the amounts was either round the amounts in the columns requested up to a round number, so a few dollars, or there were a couple like the fees for services. We did see that those services have increased over the last couple of years, so we're requesting $500 instead of $155. But typically, we're closely in line with what we've requested in the past, and any changes are simply made to sort of round out the request to make them a whole even number. I sort of went over it fairly quickly. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions any of you might have about our request.
Question about the tax sale.
Yes.
Are we seeing more people participate now with this new system?
Yes, we do see more people participate. We've had a lot more people sign up for the auction online than we ever did in the past for the in-person sale. And we do have procedures in place so that if we are contacted and we have somebody contact us that says, hey, I don't have access to a computer, I can't do the online version, we will work with them to find a community center near them, resources near them, and work with them to get them set up to bid if they so choose. We haven't had anyone take us up on that yet or say that they need that service, but that's available. We've spoken with Parks and Rec about making that available during the process, and they so graciously have agreed.
And we generated a little more revenue.
Right. And we do. As we include more properties, we do increase the revenue provided through that. And like I said, we're up to doubling the amount of properties that we start with. We used to start with 150, now we're doing 300. That's one way to try to work through the backload or the backlog of properties. And, you know, there are other ways that would cost more money to do it. We're trying to maximize what we have with the personnel that we have at the moment.
I noticed in the personnel you have one vacancy.
We had one vacancy caused by Joni, and that has been filled.
Oh, I thought you.
You might see an intern on there. We
Yeah, I
have
think
had
that's maybe
we
that
have
one.
had money allocated for an intern. We're not actively recruiting an intern
Okay.
at the moment, particularly since we have a new attorney that we're focused on training. We've kept that in the budget.
With a legal intern.
Yeah, we've kept that as part of the structure. That's where that person would be. We currently do not have that position filled, and we do not have a request pending to fill it.
All right. Questions?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
So,
We are available for questions at any time, if any should arise in the future. Thank you.
thank you,
Where to
Jim.
find you.
well,
Should we wait on Jennifer?
I'm trying,
oh, yes, we should wait for Jim.
I am trying to get a hold. Yeah, let's go, Jen.
We got Betty here.
Let's, oh, here she is.
Just making copies.
Are you ready? All right, we'll get back in session here. Next is Extension Council, so take it away, Candace.
You ready? Okay. Good afternoon, Commission. I'm Candace Mearpool, Director of the Shawnee County Extension Office. I want to start off by thanking the Commission for giving us time to report our programs and impacts quarterly this year. You'll see I've made our budget presentation this year just about our budget because you've afforded us that time to educate you about the things we do throughout the year. Here today with me is Christy McKenzie, our board chair, and Joanne Domi, our financial secretary. And so with these people, I think we should be able to give you or answer all your questions that you might have about the budget packet we submitted. I'm going to let Christy make a few remarks on behalf of the board to start.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Christy McKenzie. I'm the chair of the Shawnee County Extension Board. It is a 9-person board. We are all volunteers from around the county, and we represent many facets of the county, and we work really hard every month to try to meet the needs of the county and of the Extension Office. I wanted to say that I also served on the Budget Committee. We took a lot of time. We looked at each line item carefully and considerably, and everything that is on our budget request is a need, and we looked at other ways that we could save money and receive other funding. So I wanted you to know that we were diligent in our request. Let's see, what else I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that I'm really proud to be on this extension board. We work really hard. We see the reports every month. To know that the Extension Office is going out and doing things, and even just my contact as the library director at Rossville with the VITA program, the dollars that were saved for our citizens was huge, and it made such a difference to people's lives, and that's what Extension Office does. It changes lives and makes a positive impact. I want to thank you for your support of the Extension Office. I want to also invite you out to the annual dinner that is in November. It will be in Rossville this year, so you'll get to come on out. And thank you for your support of the Extension Office. And if you have any questions, please ask us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we detailed our budget needs this year in our budget packet. And like Christy said, we have a budget committee from our extension board that met 3 times, twice over Zoom and once in person to formulate this budget. Things that are contractually going up include our liability insurance, our health insurance, employer contribution, and our CAPERS employer's contribution, as well as our phone service. And as I've been listening to the other department heads, I don't think insurance surprises anybody that that's an increased cost for the coming year. Our total increase needed for 2024 is $19,500. We are requesting from the commission for our appropriation $13,120, which is about a 2.15% increase from last year. We have a staff of 16 at the Shawnee County Extension Office. One of our budget priorities is salary dollars. I know you understand keeping staff is very important, and everyone working their compensation, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so tongue-tied. Their compensation is an important part of how they figure where they will stay or if they will go try and find other employment. So the budget request we are making includes a 3 to 4% wage increase for our staff in 2024. So here is our funding picture for 2023 for this year. And I always include this slide because I want to show how we leverage our appropriation to get the most impact for Shawnee County residents. As an example, and this isn't on this board or this slide because it would be in our grants and in kind, we have 2 Department of Education interns this summer who are doing 4-H programming, and their pay and the supplies for all their programs are coming through a Kansas 4-H grant. We were able to go for that grant because we have a 4-H agent who can oversee, and she had to book them in all these different places before they even got there. So us having the staff that we do allows us to get more resources for Shawnee County. The other amounts not listed here is the value of our volunteer service. From June 2022 to May 2023, Extension volunteers served 14,745 hours, which is the equivalent of 7 full-time employees, just in volunteer service. And then also not included in this pie chart is the value of the K-State departments like IT, legal, experiment stations, and specialist, which K-State puts a value of $86,600, which as much as we have Cody from Manhattan come work at our computers, that might be a little low. We need a lot of IT help at the Extension office. So in this pie chart, of course, is our appropriation from the county making up half of that funding. That purple piece is our FNEP and SNAP-Ed program, which is actually federally funded. And not every county in Kansas has that. We are one of the lucky few. Lisa Martin runs that program. And so her educators are paid strictly by federal funds. As a county, all we supply them with is office space to have that program. That green portion is from our grants and in-kind detail sheet that was in our budget packet. Oh, so the interns are in that green part. Sorry, I made a mistake before. And then the red is the KSU salary and benefits. In our budget, you'll see that K-State on the income side is like $77,000, and yet you see $135 here. The difference there is that benefits piece. They contractually, like they put in our contracts how much of K-State will pay of our salary, but on the benefits, they don't list that number, so that's why we set up the income from K-State that way. But at the end of the year, they do that form, which I've also put in your budget packet, that says what they did pay towards agent benefits. And then I just want to thank you all for your support. We really work hard for Shawnee County. We really are focusing on serving all parts of the county, rural, urban, diverse populations. We're making sure that everyone knows that extension education is available to them and what we offer. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have about our budget request.
Any questions?
So I guess my question's really more about the K-State contribution. So the $86,000 that they've counted for this benefits and salary for this agent, the
FNEP?
Yeah. that person is 100% with you guys, or is that just,
I believe we have 11,000 towards salary for that agent. But that is benefits and salary on that line item for the FNEP. And again, that's federal, so that comes through that way. And that's why that agent is so heavily funded through K-State. The other 5 agents, we're not funded at that rate.
okay, and then the nutrition assistants, they've got $196,000 that they're counting?
Yes, we have 4 nutrition assistants with FNEP and 1 SNAP Ed nutrition assistant, and we are currently hiring for another part-time. And all those salary dollars are federal. Those don't come through county.
Okay.
The federal funding.
Yes.
Is that a constant from year to year, or is it?
We apply in the middle of the year for that grant. You know, it's a grant. They could say, no, you don't have that anymore. It's a part of the Farm Bill. So it's pretty secure, pretty counted on that we will continue to have those programs, but we do apply for that grant through K-State every year. And so those last 3 under direct contributions are all for FNEP SNAP Ed programs.
Okay.
Commissioner Cook, do you have any 4-H questions?
No. No, I don't. Or extension. Extension is more than 4-H.
We are.
A lot more, it's a lot more.
You're a 4-H veteran there.
Commissioner Rapon, I was ready for the Master Gardener questions from you.
Oh.
I'm ready. You made my head explode last time. You were like, what do they do? And I was like, oh, goodness.
No.
So the $1,500 increase to telephone services,
Yes.
so what was the original telephone services?
So in 20,
Rotary.
yeah, almost.
So it's $6,600 is the total.
Yes, it was 5,100. We were getting our phones from Cox Phone Service. Our ESI phones, while getting Cox telephone service, they were no longer being supported. And we were having to Google everything from the front side to like get it to go on vacation or to change an extension. ESI used to have a local contact here that would come support those phones, but they have gone to an internet-based phone service. And so they told us this year if we went to their internet-based service, switching from Cox, they gave us all but one phone, the main receptionist phone, for free. Actually, they said they were switching out, they were like buying our phones, but they haven't told me yet where to send the old phones. I have a big box of them. It's like, I'm ready to send them.
So is that
That's
like
the
a
increase.
situation where it's gonna be more for just 1 year and then it'll go down? Or?
No, the monthly service has gone up. We actually didn't budget in 2024 for the, so we had to pay for the one phone. We had to pay for like 20 power adapters because the power doesn't come through the phone line. It's an adapter. And then 3 internet Wi-Fi things where we don't have data ports for the phones, but we're just taking that out of our equipment for 2023. We had that budgeted in the equipment, but the phone service will be that higher rate from month to month for the internet-based.
Okay. Thank you.
All these grants that you have, you have to apply each year for all these grants, or
Some of them are grants and some of them are gifts.
gifts?
So it just depends, because we have a couple on here that are for like professional conferences that have been we've gotten gifts from our professional associations to cover the registration and whatnot. And we've been doing that the past 3 years to really keep our travel budget down. We tell agents, if you want to go to a conference, try to get a scholarship or a grant just to help keep that cost down. We actually will not have, as far as I know, the soil test grant next year. That ran out in June. Was it June or May? May. The Conservation District statewide is going a different way with their soil grants. We still absolutely do soil tests almost every day this time of year, but it used to be one free soil test per Shawnee County resident. Now they just have to pay the $10. Which I would argue is still very much worth $10. We send it up to K-State. They get analysis and recommendations. So we don't just tell you the nutrient makeup of your soil. You're getting what you need to do if there's any amendments that need to be made. But that will be going away next year because the Conservation District is going to handle that themselves, and it will only be for agriculture fields. It will no longer be for home lawns and gardens.
You're seeing good numbers in your Master Gardeners volunteer program.
The volunteer hours are amazing.
I see that.
Yes, and I think everything's looking really nice. I know they're waiting to hear if we could possibly be a part of a park in Shawnee County to move the vegetable demonstration garden after this year, just because of vandalism and just constant theft. We're going to have to move it from the event center grounds. At one point, there was someone in the garden shed, like sleeping in there, so it's not even a real safe place for the master gardeners to be. We don't want to sneak up on anybody.
All right. Any other questions? Maris, thank you. Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next we have the Fair Association. Continue on with our budget hearings.
Okay, I'm Larry Weiner, President of the Shawnee County Fair Board. Again, this is our second year as this group of folks that have been running the Fair Board, putting it on. I'm assuming you guys have our budget request in. Again, we are, for lack of a better term, stuck with Stormont Vale, so we're kind of at their mercy of what they have for and can get for us. But again, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. Stuff has went up, and our rental fees have went up. Again, what we've asked for is in line with what the step up was from last year. So that's what we're looking at for rental. The fair software, again, $250 increase there. The insurance, of course, asked for more on that as well. Again, just printing, again, we've asked for $95,000. We're expecting the fair next year to run projected expenses of $112,625, and we're looking for a allocation of $95,000 to put the fair on. We think we've got some good stuff for the community to come see. Last year we had our food truck event night. That seemed pretty well received. We had a band. Of course, it was terrible hot that night, so we didn't have real good participation. We've got a local band this year, so we're hoping their following will increase the public traffic to the fair. We'll have the car show on Sunday. Anything I'm missing? Cornhole. We're having a cornhole tournament this year. That seems to be real popular. I know Topeka was on national television with the cornhole tournament. So who is it that's putting it? Top City Cornhole Association is putting on the tournament for it, and we're looking to hopefully grow it and make for the cornhole players the destination for that day to come play our tournament. Yeah, we're having a child care day. We've talked with the local child cares to come into the fair. We're going to set the 4-H kids to kind of give barn tours to the kids, kind of explain the agriculture end of it, as well as going through. They have projects for them to do, coloring where they can put it up on the wall and a ribbon, and hopefully get them to go home, tell their parents about it, and get their parents to come back to the fair to see their exhibit on the wall. So again, just trying to draw more folks from Shawnee County and surrounding counties, for that matter, to come in to the fair. Who? Oh, we're Southwest Dairy's bringing their trailer in. I believe they actually have a milk cow that they milk for a demonstration. We'll have them on. It's on Friday. So again, just trying to get activities for the public, draw them in to see the fair. And again, I know the Mangarelli boys were hoping to be here, but they weren't here. But I know they would be inviting you to the different stuff that they're showing their livestock in, along with the pancake feed that will be Saturday morning. So, am I skipping anything, ladies?
I need a car show judge and a commissioner's breakfast judge.
If we have any volunteers for the car show on Sunday or the commissioner's breadbasket, and that's judged on Thursday? Thursday night at 6.
I've done the bread basket before. I can do it again. Not
There
a
we
problem.
go.
What's the date on that?
That's what I was just about to ask.
And the car show's the 24th. We had 45, 23rd. We had 45 cars last year. We're going for 80 this year.
Okay.
Oh, I won't be here.
I do have the Shawnee County Sheriff judging it. Contacted Brian Hill, and he's agreed to come on board.
Great.
So, any questions for us?
Yeah, so in the past, the past couple of years, we've talked about the potential of having some kind of a carnival or something like that. And I know that there were scheduling challenges with the event center having another carnival that was here at a different time, and I know that they had said, and I say they, not the Fair Board so much as Stormville Event Center, they were gonna talk to their vendors and see if they could arrange something. Did that ever go anywhere?
We've, yeah, we worked with them this year. They thought for quite a while, they thought they had a big name entertainer coming in Saturday night. And we were on hold for anything else till May. Till May. And we've asked them about that. We haven't revisited on the carnival itself. We thought if we had a big, originally they said it would sell out the event center. So we were kind of holding off.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. We were in hopes that it would. We were trying to rearrange our, actually the livestock sale to accommodate the concert. And it didn't happen.
Just didn't work out. Okay.
But yeah, we would like to see a carnival, but yeah, when they told us, they never would tell us the name of who they were in negotiations with for the concert, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, we are bringing bounce houses in for the kids. We've even, I guess there's even some adult-sized bounce houses too, so.
All right.
We'll have those in all week, so.
You guys have down the additional space rental for Heritage Hall and Agricultural Hall. Would that be instead of having Exhibition Hall, or is that in addition to?
In addition to.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to expand our events, and we're trying to grow, ideally, we'd like to have the entire complex filled with fair activities. We're hoping to grow the open stuff to involve more community. It's tough to get people to come out, and we're trying to expand it. But if you guys would have any ideas on that, we are more than happy to try to expand it, increase the attendance by folks from Shawnee County. Which, being in the middle of Topeka, you would think we would be able to draw people in, but we're just working on it.
We are going to increase our advertising quite a bit this year. We've got a very good contract with WIDW to do that, to try to get the word out on more of what's going on and what is happening.
Great.
That was one of the things we heard from people, was they see about the Riley County Fair, the Jackson County Fair, but they don't see so much on the Shawnee County Fairs, so it only made sense for us to spend some money on our advertising with the local TV, so. And luckily Sherry knew the ad guy, so he got us a pretty good deal with things, so.
All right. Any other questions?
No. Because that's the biggest change to your budget from last year to this year, is that additional 14,700 looking at the space.
We actually, though, are not asking for that. We took, if you see the proposed expenses, they look like they're going to be more like 112,000, but we're only asking for 95.
Right.
Seeing that we would, if that came up that we had to have that space, we'd have to figure out the funds on that.
Good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Larry.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you very
Thank you.
much.